So it's nighttime out. The shop's been closed for a bit now. And I just got a phone call from a delivery driver that the hood for this next truck is getting ready to show up. Usually you get 3 or 4 days notice at least, but I got about 10 minutes of notice and there's 6 inches of powdery snow on the ground. My driveway's all uphill. He's in a big truck. You know, the fact that I've got a forklift doesn't do me any good here. I can't go down the driveway with it. I can't do anything with it. They can't back up to where the forklift is. So got a spotlight I'm going to put out there, and the boys and I are going to go unload this entire Peterbilt hood by hand out of the back of this truck after we move a couple of pallets, apparently, out of the way that are sitting in front of it first. This is a few days after the driver showed up after dark to deliver this, basically in a blizzard. And then a couple days after that, the truck showed up, and now we're a few days after that. But that's the hood for the truck that we'll get to see here in a minute when we get it all, get the cardboard taken down. And here's the truck. I think it's a 2000 Peterbilt 379. I see a lot of 379s. About 6 out of 7 trucks that I ever see in my entire career have been 379s. That's how many of them I've seen, and I've seen hundreds. This one here is going to need the entire hood replaced. Look at the size of that dent. You know, I mean, there's a lot of big dents. It's got the big cracks along the back. Fenders are messed up. Looks like the fender's having trouble holding to the framing. That's why they got this cord there. So the entire side's been nailed out. I mean, I don't know if the camera picks it up or not, but the entire side has not just been nailed out, it's been badly nailed out. One of the worst I've ever seen on the side. It'll be pretty fancy when we get it done though. Now the first thing we're going to do on this truck is, as you can see, we're going to get the exhaust off. We're leaving the mirrors on this one. We leave the mirrors on a lot of 379s, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and I don't care about your opinions on that. We leave the mirrors on most 379s. We're taking the visor off, we're taking off all the chrome, pulling this hood for sure, it's out of here, the whole thing, grill and all. We're gonna replace the grill on the new hood and everything, so this is just gonna be a spare hood. Getting the air cleaners off. No, go ahead, just pour it down. There's one of the two. Now, what we need to do is go ahead and undo everything that holds this hood to this truck. We'll undo this right here. We leave the main hinge and brace, of course, because this is what bolts onto the new hood anyway. So we'll go ahead and get rid of these bolts, and we'll probably end up cutting them if it goes like they normally go. And then we'll go ahead and pull the hood off, because we already have the headlights and stuff off, and we'll start the process of getting the new hood on it. So the first thing we do is what we always do when we swap a hood out. We go and get a garden cart. We get the right kind of spacing going on the top of it. And that way I can undo all the stuff, release the hood, we just pull it straight out of here. Then we'll go unload this hood somewhere and get another garden cart. I have another one just like this, or use this one off of this hood, depending on how it turns out, and do the same thing. Stack the new hood on top of this, back it up, get the height right once we get it here, bolt everything up, pull the cart out. All right, so we got the hood pulled. Boys will be in here any minute. And we'll go ahead and get this guy pulled outside, get it set somewhere, get the new one unboxed. It's still down at the end of the driveway, and get it up here. And here comes the other one. Now we're going to go ahead and get this hood unboxed and get it loaded on a trailer and get it up to the shop. We're getting her all masked up, getting ready to go grab that hood and get it pulled outside so we can swap it out with this one. It'll be sitting right where this one is here pretty quick. So here it is the next morning, and the boys will be here in the next half hour or so. We're gonna go ahead and get this bar pulled off the front here. And I'm gonna go ahead and get this hood backed up to the truck and go through all the steps of getting it bolted on and fitted, and get it all adjusted correctly, and get the grill put on it, get the grill assembled. It's a brand new grill, so it comes in like 8 pieces or more. And so I'm gonna assemble all of that and put it on there. You'd think, why don't we just do that on put together day? But the reason I don't want to, and I never do on these new ones, is because it's not like it's gonna rust underneath the grill. It isn't, nothing is gonna go wrong. It's perfectly painted. It's already painted white. The truck's not gonna be white, but it doesn't really matter. And then when I put the grill on put together day, a lot of times there's a lot of moving and fitting and adjusting and bumping it here and bumping it there, and then you bump it a little too far and you bring it back. But when you do that, you're scratching the heck out of the paint, the brand new paint. Now, I'd rather do it with this white paint, fix that, fill in what little grooves there might be, fix those little things, and then just paint it, and then unmask it like any normal truck. We're not really ahead at all putting it together like that on put together day. You really raise your chances of gouging stuff up. And to answer any of the questions that might be out there as to why we leave 379 mirrors on all the time, and it is basically all the time, I'll go ahead and explain that right now. 379s I see always have a couple million miles on them, and they're 10 or more years old, always. So here's this mirror. It's just riveted, 3 spots, or 6 spots, 3 on each side. And you'd think, well, just drill the rivets and it'll come right off. No, those are the hardest rivets known to man. You'll go through 10 drill bits trying to mess with those stupid things. So grind them off. Well, okay, you have to be surgically careful grinding those off without gouging this all up, getting over into other things. Then once you do that, all of these wires run through this little bitty stem. They run into this door, inside the door, down the door, across. They run across right in here somewhere and into the deck, all in one piece oftentimes. I mean, there might be different scenarios for different models, but what I always found was it's all one piece. So you end up taking part of the dash apart inside to undo the main wiring harness, and then feeding it back through this super tight space, back through the hinge, back through all this stuff, up through the door, all the way through here, just to be able to bring it out with this. And you think, well, why don't you just get it in at this end? You can't. It's too big on this end. Once they put all their electrical ends on there, it's too big on this end. You'd have to cut it down, and then you can't fish it back through because it's such a narrow little pipe with an even more narrow hole down here. So basically, you've got the better part of half a day or more. And like I said, very careful scenarios you have to go through to be able to get just one of these mirrors off of here. And then when you go to put them together, it's the same thing, but in reverse. Feeding all that junk back through and putting it all back together, putting the dash back together, that takes up almost a full day, just doing the mirrors. And so that's why we leave the mirrors on almost all 379s. So then what about the horns, and what about the lights? What do we do with these all the time? Well, I'll show you. I almost never pull lights. If the owner happens to get new lights, and during the paint process they wish to mount those lights, I'm all for it, because we do want the lights to be able to mount up without there being old paint underneath, because they might not be the same shape as the old lights. So we don't want to ever take that chance. And then in that scenario, I will mess with the lights. But other than that, we never mess with lights. We don't charge enough. We're not one of these shops that charges you $30,000 and makes all sorts of promises. We'll make you a really nice truck, and we'll do it for the 10 grand range. But we're not pulling everything off. We're not pulling the headliner out. We're not pulling windows out. We're not pulling everything off. We're not doing all that. So what about these horns? Well, like I said, these trucks are over 20 years old almost always, and they always have a couple million miles on them in my shop, because where I'm at in the world, all we ever do is old, retired, over-the-road trucks that have been turned into work trucks. And that's what it is. Dirt haulers, cowboy trucks, they're old, over-the-road trucks that don't do that anymore. So they have a couple million miles on them. And when that happens, all sorts of weird things happen. Like, see how bent this is? This is actually bent out this way quite a bit. I don't know how that happened. And back here, we got the backs off of the horns. We try it all. If we can get the backs off, we do, because it's easier than masking them. And then when you go try and take the horn loose, you can see somebody's glued it in place. You try and take the horn loose and you realize that there's a mile of fine threads back there that have to come through here. These break easily. These will break, or it'll rip loose from the cab. If you just get on it with like a pipe wrench and really reef on it, you'll just mess up the cab. You'll just break something. I know, because about 20 years ago, I did just that. So we put a certain amount of pressure on them, and if they don't want to come, we just mask them up. It's a pain in the butt, and we'd rather not do it, but because pulling them's way easier. If you can just get it to unscrew, it's way easier than masking them, but it doesn't work that way. And we don't want to tear apart the entire cab and the headliner out and all that junk on a truck that we're not paying off the farm on any of these trucks. We're just trying to get people nice work trucks at a reasonable rate. Look at that. How often do you ever see that? Just a big split right in the horn. And here's the grill as it sits, still covered in all of its, you know, plastic from the factory. Quite a few pieces there. We'll put it all together on the front of this hood, and then we'll mask it up. And here's the new visor that we still have to unpack and install as well. So we're getting some of this masking all figured out. And I'm going to pull these fenders. There's only 4 bolts in each one right now. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these fenders because they're going to be different color anyway. Set them aside, prep them separate, paint them separate, and then we'll mount them up on put together day. So now I've got everything assembled on this side that's going to be in use to put this together. I'm going to go ahead and put these bushings, which these are pretty darn new. These are in really good shape actually. I don't see that very often. So I'm going to go ahead and put these bushings on either side of this, put this forward, bolt it to this. That's how simple these hoods bolt up. So I've went and pulled these rollers out of the other hood, and there's 6 bolts holding each one on. And in that other Peterbilt hood, all of them but 3 were seized up in the nutserts, and the nutserts spun. So I had to go out there and actually cut all those bolts except for 3. Now that I got them off, because I need to put the rollers, I need to transfer all 4 sets of rollers, these 2 and then the other style, onto this hood. But before I do, I went ahead and took these rollers off, because as you can see, their angles are different. These have been bent and tweaked. Look at this one. You can see that has been tweaked this way quite a ways. I need to bring it back this way. Look at this angle on both of them. You can see this one's bent, bowed far more than this one. This one's got the stock bend here, and this one's been exaggerated here. This one's got a more stock bend here, and this one's been exaggerated there. So I need to take them over to the vise and get them all straightened up and matching each other before I put them on the truck. So we start from a correct ground zero when we go to adjust this hood. And now I've bent them and they look pretty darn similar. The angles are the same. Everything's pretty much the same. I'm gonna go ahead and put the rollers back on them and get them installed on the hood. And then I'll install these rollers, the lower ones, on the hood as well. They weren't bent or messed up, so I'll just go ahead and transfer them straight over. And this will go on last. After we put the grill on, this will go on top so we can open and close the hood. And here, we've got them installed on both sides. These won't take any adjustment. These will. I have them right about where they're gonna be, but they're still loose enough. 4 out of the 6 bolts are loose and the other 2 are just snugged up. That way when the time comes I can loosen them just a little bit and adjust as needed. But this is a really good starting point. Now I can go ahead and close the hood and begin adjusting everything out. And as you can see, that side has the cable and has the spring, but neither of those were present on this side of that other hood. So I had nothing to salvage off of it. These are brand new and come on the hood that way. But the other hood, they were just ripped completely out and there was nothing here. There's nothing here to hold it. So all I've done while this is here is just put a washer here, and then put a couple of these clips, these fasteners on there. Hold the whole thing together until I'm done adjusting it. That way every time I open it, the proper tension's on this side. It's not, you know, only one side catching is not good for any hood, let alone a new one. Now I've got the hood all adjusted. It's all snugged up down in there. It's all adjusted on this end. The rollers are all adjusted. Got that nice, perfectly straight 3/4 inch gap. Top of the hood matches the top of that cowling. This thing's ready to go. Here's the driver's side, same thing. 3/4 of an inch gap, nice and even, nice and straight. Tops are even, perfect fit. So I finished out my day yesterday doing body work. Got all the initial body work done on the back, most of it done on this side. Just getting her snugged up. Now we got it whipped finally. I'm just gonna get her masked up. Getting the sanding knocked out, getting ready to get some wet sanding primer on it. This side's pretty much sanded. Just about ready for wet sanding primer. So here we are the next morning. I've got everything primed the way I wanted it. The reason it looks patchy is because it's already been guide coated. So I've already sprayed all my guide coat on all my primer. I'm here a couple hours before the boys. I'm going to go ahead and get a bunch of this sanding done before they show up. So now I've got everything sanded. The boys and I've gone over everything. Everything that's going to be black and everything around it. Now yesterday, I went ahead and got the primer and paint on, the black, on everything that matters. This is all going to be, this stripe is all going to be outlined in black. That's why this black is here. You're not going to see hardly any of it. You're going to see a 1% of it when it's all done. The roof cap, you're going to see all that. Fenders, you're going to see all them. We're going to pack those off to a different part of the shop when the boys get here. They're going to mask off this both these roof caps for me while I'm busy spending basically my entire day laying out this stripe scheme. So by tonight, I can spray the second color in between the stripes that I lay out. So now I've got the cardboard cutout taped up there in position. And what I've done is I've just taken an ink pen and traced it. And you think black ink on a black surface, you know, good luck with that. But it actually works really well because all it does is just makes a shinier black surface, just a shiny line. And if you can find that shiny line and follow it, then you can get your design down. And this is what you end up with. Now this is completely ready to be painted on, and then tomorrow be masked in. This side of the hood. The other side will be done here shortly. So now I've got this side done back to here, which is important. That way we can open the hood and do everything we got to do with the hood open. And I've got it that far on both sides. And of course the guys have started masking up the roof cap. And now I've got this masked all the way down the side, just the way it's going to be. And I'm just making my way around the back. I got the green on yesterday. It's the next morning. Boys are going to be here any minute. We're going to mask in between the two vinyl lines. The two vinyl lines here and the two vinyl lines here. There's going to end up being two completely masked in stripes. And then we're going to go ahead and prep everything else. Get the final prep all done, resand it. It needs to be. You've got a lot of overspray and stuff up in here. It feels like sandpaper. Resand everything, particularly around the rivets. That's actually a big issue on these trucks. When you go to paint, if you haven't resanded around the rivets, it still kind of feels like sandpaper, even in tight. That texture shows up in your gloss. So you have to be very particular and actually get around all 9 million rivets again, all the way. And you can't slack, because if you do, it'll show up in the gloss. So that's what today is going to be about, is getting that masked up, getting this 100% ready, and getting the final color on. And here the boys got her all masked up. I spent the morning cleaning the shop because it just was due. It gets bad enough, you get 5 projects in on and you got to stop and clean everything. I did that while the boys masked all this stuff up. So around here we've got a little game of tag that isn't very fun for anybody. And that is when it's something that the boys need to be doing, like the masking and some of this stuff. I can mask like the wind, I've done it for years, but we all have our jobs. And while those jobs are pretty diverse and pretty widespread, we still have jobs that each other doesn't normally do. So I had the boys mask all this up this morning. I did all the fine line masking yesterday myself, but I had a mask in between this morning. I had to mask up the roof cap yesterday, and all the masking on every vehicle, every truck, everything, that's all them. And then when they're all done with their part, whatever that might be, the masking in this particular case, it's tag. And then tag, I'm in. And then I send them away and I do all the final sanding on one of these. And the reason I do all the final sanding isn't because I don't think they can handle it. It's because I owe it to my customers for them to know for sure that I'm the one that did all the final prep. The last hands on it were mine. The last thing to touch it, the last thing that shaped the look of it was me. And they need to know that. And that's why I make sure that I do the final sanding and the final prep on literally everything that comes through here. So tag, I'm in. And I got all this sanded, went over 320, sanded everything. You can see it's all melded back together. Then blow it all off. And now I'm gonna mix up some primer, prime it in a medium to dark gray, and then I'm gonna paint some purple on it. All right, it's go time. You guys riding along? All right, it's about time we get some paint on this old girl. So I got this bad boy shot yesterday. Boys are going to be in here any minute. They're going to walk in the door any second. We're going to get to unmasking this thing, and if it unmasks, fine, because again, we'll unmask the stripes first. If anything goes wrong, I don't want to have the whole truck unmasked if it turns out I have to reshoot something. So we'll unmask the stripes, and if that goes well, then it's a full green light. We'll get this thing unmasked, we'll get it put back together, and even though it's a blizzard outside and was all night last night and yesterday, I think the owner's going to come get it today. All right, so we've got the initial unmasking well underway. I'm pretty happy with how the stripes come out. So here in just a minute, we're going to go ahead and unmask everything else and get this guy put back together. And then right afterwards, we'll go ahead and get the exhaust and air cleaners and these fenders put back on. Got the headlights, getting ready to put them on. Get the wiring all in place. Now we'll just slip them on. Getting ready to do this other air cleaner. We got the one on the other side. Do the exhaust here shortly. Fenders here real shortly. All right, turn the boys loose. This truck is completely done, ready to go back. The owner's gonna come get it probably tomorrow mid-morning, but right now we're gonna walk around it and have a look. So this is, I believe, a 2000 Pete 379. Black fenders, purple body, green stripe, black outline to the stripe. New grille, brand new hood. All the details are there. Everything matches up perfectly. Everything lines up nicely. All the dents are gone. All the dents are gone out of the back. Wings are gone. That old beat up hood's gone. All of its little issues are gone. This guy's ready for some more rounds. And from what I understand, it's headed to North Dakota basically tomorrow. All right, well, that's another one in the books. If you like what you see here, go ahead and hit the like button because that helps. And if you want to see more stuff like this or art or any of the many things we do around here, you should probably go ahead and subscribe because, you know, we always got something going on. See you guys around.